All right, well, thank you for letting me speak with you tonight. I'm going to start with graduation rate.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Beth. There was one other goal that Dave had to speak to, or do you want to come back today?
I could come back to
Come
it.
back. Let Beth go out. She's on graduation rate. We'll come
Yes.
back.
Are you
Go
sure?
ahead, Beth.
Okay, so graduation rate.
Sorry, Dave.
So for the class of 2019, what is reported to the state is 93.9%. When I made my projection this time last year, we were looking at 94.6. I was off by 0.7%, and the data below gives you a little bit of insight as to why I was off. We did have 5 students not graduate at the May ceremony, but attended credit recovery over the summer. We had 5 students, and all 5 graduated through credit recovery, so that was positive. We did not have any students, fifth-year seniors, returning from the students that didn't graduate in May. We had 7 students drop during the 18-19 school year, and that number is larger than we've had in the past. I broke down those 14 students into the number of transfer students, special education students, students that wanted to pursue a GED, male, female, white, Latino, African American. The good news, we did have 2 students that had dropped out previously, not in their senior year. One of them in their sophomore year and one of them in their junior year return this year. And the hope is that they will continue to work towards their credits and graduate, and then they'll be included in our adjusted cohort this time next year. So that was good news. But historically, over the last 10 years, we've had anywhere between 7 and 13 students drop overall, and so that 14 is high. And I really looked at who those 14 students were to kind of get a little bit of insight as to, what happened. And most of them were attendance issues. And so what happens is, if students don't attend school, they get behind, they get frustrated, they get discouraged, then they don't come to school, they get further behind, and it just becomes this cycle. And as much as we start, we work with them and try to come up with a plan, adjust schedules, work with our credit recovery program in-house. I think sometimes the discouragement is just so much greater than they can face. In addition to that, I think there is false information that achieving a GED might be easier than obtaining that high school diploma, and it's not. And that was actually the case of the 2 students that returned to us. They went out there and kind of recognized this is more difficult than we thought it was. I think more and more of our students are dealing with social emotional issues that it's just this battle between, dealing with, again, the emotional issues and dealing with school. And unfortunately, leaving school to some is the only option. So again, that's something that we'll continue to work on as a student services department and as school as a whole. It's a collective effort with student services, with Dave and his team and teachers to try to really look and see why our students are struggling and why they're leaving us. Because this is such a great place. It's like if you can't make it here, it's really tough out there in the real world. So we did have 11 students retain, not accept their diploma, special education students. All 11 of them met graduation requirements. They just chose to stay on for transition services. So if you include those into our graduation rate, it truly is a 96.6 graduation rate. So that sounds a lot better than 93.6. Sounds a lot better. And our adjusted from 2018 went from 94.3 to 97, and those were some students that came back as 5th year and graduated, and then some transition service students that decided to take their diploma. So every year that, hopefully that 93.3 will increase next year when we do the adjustment.
And just for the boards, for some of the new board members, even though those students completed their graduation requirements but came back for transition services, they still count as being on your books as not graduating.
Correct. So the state does not consider them a graduate if they did not take their diploma. so they can stay on for services up until the day before their 22nd birthday. And I think that's something that hopefully the state, every school faces this. Hopefully this is something the state will.
So historically, that's why we report on what they would be, with everybody that met graduation requirements. That's why you see the 96.6. Because they have that right, or that option, so it's.
Does that adjust when they reach 22? Because at that point, when they, move on,
Right.
do they take their diploma then?
They do. And some of them
Okay.
choose to just stay on for services for an additional year.
Right.
That's why if you notice in 2018, we went from 94.3 to 97. Some of those are students that just decided to stay on that one additional year for transition. But we really just report on that last year as an adjusted cohort. So, every year if we were to look at our graduation rate, it would probably go up a little bit as students are maxing out at their 22nd birthday. Any additional questions on that?
There were not any additional questions.
Okay. The next page is projecting graduation rate for the class of 2020. Currently, we have only lost 3 students to drops in GED, and that's where our focus is going to be, is to kind of keep it at that number. We're looking at 9 students returning for transition. So right now, we're projected with the transition students at 95.6. That'd be great if we could hold on to that. And again, those are conversations when we have students that are talking about dropping, thinking about dropping, saying they no longer want to be in high school. Those are conversations that we have with the deans and the counselors and parents, and try to get them to understand that, we'll work with you. We'll try to create a plan that will suit your needs to not drop out. I think another important number there that I've added this year is freshmen on track. The state actually provides us with a list of students that are now sophomores, freshmen from last year, who are not on track to graduate, and that's at 95.34, and that's going to be a real focus this year with the deans and counselors and social workers. What's going on with those students? Is it attendance? Is it some skill deficit, social, emotional? Is it all of the above? Working to really make sure that not only are we focusing on the current senior class, but our rising students as well. And I've just listed a number of things that we continue to do in student services in collaboration with the dean's office to try and support our students. And I think over the last 2 years, the social workers and psychologists have implemented homework hangout from Monday through Thursday. There is an adult in the student cafeteria, and students can just come hang out, do their homework. We have NHS tutors there. We have snacks available. And so we're going to try and make this more of a mandated, requirement for these students to come if they're failing. So we're really going to be looking at progress reports and quarter grades, reaching out to parents, saying this is available to them. They need to be coming, get the support, and try to get those grades up, so that, especially our current freshmen, so that we're not looking at summer school for them.
Beth, I have a question. So for some of the seniors that you're trying to hold on to, are there credit deficits in core courses, or are these in some of the elective areas?
Both, but definitely in core courses as well. Mm-hmm. Yes. So if it's elective areas, sometimes we can be creative, with how we can look at getting them to graduate. I mean, sometimes it's literally being short the 22 credits. So we look to be creative. I know in the past we've worked with Kristen, with special education students. Sheila can be creative in working with special ed students. So a lot of times it's meeting those state requirements in English, math, and science.
And for the board, the reason why I bring that up is, later on we might have that conversation to look at state requirements and our requirements, and having some options that might allow a student to leave after 3.5 years if they complete kind of a core.
And I have
that
to
might
say,
be a good fit for some.
our early graduation numbers for December have definitely increased for students that want to start college early or they want to go out and get a job. this is my 16th year, and every year I feel like that number increases just a little bit more for students that want to graduate in December.
Can you?
What is that number?
I think this year we probably have 14.
It might be something just in the future. Could you add to this report?
Sure.
Just in your bulleted list or whatever, just so the board has an idea of.
Sure.
But you
Just-
lump them into the final
Yeah,
May number.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's just
Yeah.
to see the historical of the number of December graduates.
Yes, and I can even give you 5 years worth of data that I've
Okay.
got. Yeah.
They're not playing 3 sports.
They're not playing 3 sports. Do you want me to go back to attendance now?
No, go to matriculation rate. We'll let you finish.
All right, so then moving on to matriculation. We, for class in 2019, had 95.6 students say that they were going on to a 2-year trade prep school, 4-year military. We had a higher number of students seeking employment this year. And I think in looking at those students that decided that employment was a better path, many of them, there were financial difficulties for college. Some of them did not have the best experience in high school and thinking work might be a better place for them to start, maybe figure things out before going on to school. I just think maybe it's a changing time. And with the state looking at college and career readiness more than just college, I think we're moving in a direction too of not only exposing students to the option of 2-year, 4-year and what school looks like, but helping them really be prepared for careers. And one of the big changes we're going to make this year is we've had a college fair in the spring since I've been here, and we're going to now change it to a college and career fair. So not only are we going to highlight a mini college fair with 2-year and 4-year schools on one day, but we're going to open it up to a work fair or a trade fair. And we are going to reach out to parents and community members and bring people in that will talk to our students about if you start this career or if you start in this particular job, options and pathways that it could lead you to. And I think that will excite some of our students that it's not just a college is not the only option. We actually changed up our senior meetings this year. The counselors were realizing that when we were having senior meetings that were primarily for 4-year, students that were looking at a 4-year school and even a 2-year school, the students that were not interested were, not really engaged. So we did 4 presentations this year. We surveyed the students. They got to choose which presentation they wanted to listen to. And it was interesting. We had a 4-year in the auditorium, 2-year with us representatives from Triton. We had work in the alumni lounge, and Jim Franco brought in some different tradespeople and some people from the workforce to talk to our students. And then the military was up here, and it was 64% 4-year, 17 2-year, 8% work, and 2% military. So it's like we've already identified these seniors are interested in pursuing work at some level. So we're going to do a better job in helping students kind of what options that they can go in the work path that could still lead to being, financially secure and having advancement in that area. So that's going to be sort of our focus this year.
Beth, one of the things you said during your high school leadership meeting was more students have talked to their counselors that we see more kids looking at employment first right out of high school, and then they will enroll at Triton and pursue maybe going and getting certified as in that field.
Yeah, trying out, again, maybe becoming a little bit more mature and just seeing what's out there, seeing if it's a job that they'd even be interested in before going out and pursuing and actually getting that certification or that degree. And, working on that, the internship over the summer, I know that's something that Kylie and I are going to be working on. So there's a lot of, a lot of interesting, innovative things that we'll be doing for those students that the 2-year, 4-year route is just not something that they're interested in at this time.
Do we also identify or highlight certificate programs? like an auto mechanic,
Mhm.
that's a certificate program. A CNA, that's a certificate program. Those are jobs that pay,
Mhm.
better with a short investment.
And we're including those in the
Okay.
2-year, like the 2-year
Tech trade prep.
trade prep, we're including
Yeah,
those.
that's right,
It's just
right.
that population of students that would really just like to go out and start working and make some money and just-
We talked briefly, and obviously the board's going to go through their goal-setting meeting and then open it up to stakeholders, but, and we'll have other representatives from the building administration on that process as well, but we've talked we've begun to discuss like what are some things we would recommend to the board. And this is one that we've started to discuss, like, is this one that we want to be tracking, or do we go more to the freshmen on track? Which is why I had Beth include that on the bottom, because it really is, I mean, if we're going to want kids to be college and career ready, they need to graduate. And if we can start making sure that they have a successful freshman year, right? I mean, even if you look at the data that Beth presented in the previous report, we already are at 95%, so we already have almost just under 5%. We're at like 4.7 of our freshmen are already falling off track. And so, that number can only grow as things become more complicated in high school. So that may be something we want to maybe focus on more instead of maybe the matriculation rate, which is sometimes just a natural effect if we're doing things right with student services and the different opportunities we provide here. So it's something to think about as we go into the board evaluation and goal-setting process.
Well, the Chicago Lab School definitely says the highest predictor of high school graduation is freshman year.
Correct.
And so, and that's,
I think it's definitely easier to catch them before they get into that
Get-
vicious cycle.
because that starts a track, it starts a path, starts everything, and that's been repeated many times, so definitely there. And then, I think there's trends out there now where some of the certification programs are even coming into the senior year. So those students who are just checked out because they're bored.
Well, we have 2 students this year participating in cohorts at Triton. One's in criminal justice, and the other one is in
See,
They do the auto?
auto. Is it auto?
Oh, I think it's the CNA program.
CNA.
Yeah, so we'll
Nice.
continue to promote that. Kylie and I will highlight it again at parent-teacher conferences. We held a session both in the afternoon and the evening for any parent that wanted to come in and find out more about it, because I think you can share it with the students, but we really have to educate our parents that this is a bonus. It's a real benefit for our students if they take advantage of that. It's not for everybody, but it certainly could be for a population of our students. I think there was a question about the DVR field trip, like somebody had a question about that. So on October 23rd, we'll have approximately 80 of our juniors and seniors. We're surveying them through English classes to see if they'd be interested in attending this field trip. It's DVR is actually paying for the buses, and the programs are auto, computer science, manufacturing, and health science. 20 students in each group, and then they'll get to go to Triton, and it's not just selling Triton's program, but it's giving them sort of an overall information about that particular area and how they can basically grow in that area, and it could be a good career moving forward. I think that was the question about
And DVR, a reminder
Yep.
again to the group, is that's the
Right,
other
I know what
cooperative.
it's
We belong to 2
stood for.
cooperatives. LADSI is special education, and DVR is the cooperative we belong to with Ridgewood, Elmwood Park, Leiden, Oak Park River Forest, Proviso, and we pay all contribute to have one person manage our Perkins and career and tech ed grants for us.
So that
And then they-
CTE
Correct.
flows through there.
Correct.
Flows through them.
Mm-hmm.
And then does
They help
some of
set up
that,
this stuff, the field
Okay.
trips and job shadowing and some of that
do
stuff.
are we also a pass-through, or is that a pass-through for feeders of that co-op?
Correct. The feeders also, there's opportunities that feeders can apply for additional grant money through the CTEI and some of that.
There's
the
a lot
Perkins
of
grant.
partnership with Triton.
Correct.
So usually anything that we're doing, there's partnership with Triton. So the last page are what I just call some fun facts from the, actually, I just noticed class of 2019. I listed the four-year schools, top 20 four-year schools that our students applied to. You can see the number of transcripts that students requested, and number of applications. There was one student that applied to 28 schools, so they range from 1 to 28. We had approximately 100 college admissions reps visiting RB this year, which I think when I first started, it was probably half of that. So I think our reputation out there is very strong, and college reps are coming here and wanting to recruit our students. And our students applied to 344 different colleges across the country. So I just thought that was some interesting information to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. You gotta stay now for days
I'm
attendance.
going to definitely stay for that.